Hey, this is JT, and I'm going to talk to you about handstands. In a handstand, you flip the kinetic chain upside down. Okay, the importance of that is that all the muscles in the body work together as a cohesive unit. And so, since birth, you've been walking, obviously on your feet, and your lower body primarily stabilizing, and so it happens effortlessly. But you see how, outside of their coordination is not the best, but you see how it takes a long time for a toddler to develop fluid walking and then eventually running. So when you get into practicing handstands, it's most likely going to be a slow development, right? It's not just going to come in a few weeks. It's going to take you some time. But the thing you have to remember is that balancing is now being done primarily by the upper body. And the upper body's never been in this type of position. So overhead pressing with dumbbells or barbells, none of that stuff translates to handstand work. And so what you've got to do is the musculature in the fingers, the wrists, the hands, the forearms, the shoulders, specifically the hands and the shoulders, that's where the majority of the balancing is taking place. So I see a lot of people when it comes time to start working handstands, they go right into kicking up against the wall, and that's not at all how I would suggest starting. I would suggest starting with working on balancing through the hands, the wrists, and the shoulders. And for most people, the first thing that you're going to want to work on is some simple wrist stretches to address mobility. A lot of people, they can't get the wrist back adequately to allow you to have basically that straight up and down alignment. In a proper handstand, you want to have your shoulders directly above your wrists, hips directly above the shoulders. You should be in a straight line. Even the lumbar spine's not going to have this curvature. You're going to want to be pretty stacked. So the way I would look at addressing your wrists is with the following stretches, and hopefully you can see this adequately. But place your hands flat and make sure that your entire palm is pressed firmly into whatever surface you're on. Okay, and then you'll just gently apply some pressure forward, keeping the back of the palm pressed firmly into the ground. Apply a little bit of pressure, and then hold that for 10 seconds, 15 seconds. And then you can basically out to the sides, one side then the other side. And over time, as you get better, you're gonna be able to do it a lot farther, right? And then you can go 180 degrees, keeping pressure applied to this part of the palm at all times. And that's gonna allow to make sure you're getting the best stretch of the tendons, ligaments, and tissues in the forearm. Okay, then you're gonna rock back, sit back on this one. So you've got those three hand positions. Then you can turn this way, and eventually, I'm not there yet, but hopefully get a full 180 that way. And then rock back. Then once you've done those, you can turn the hands over, and you'll just press firmly the whole back of the palm, pressing firmly here. So you're not lifting up any part of the back of the palm. Just gonna gently apply pressure. And when you first do these, you're not gonna be able to get very far, most likely, unless you naturally have good mobility there. This way. Then you can just shake those out. It'll feel a little, I guess I could say painful. It's you should be able to feel the difference between stretching pain and a sharp stabbing pain. So at no time when you're working on mobility or anything should you ever feel any sharp stabbing pain, and if you do, you should stop immediately. But when you get into stretching, there is a hurts so good, right? It's like a good pain. You're gonna feel some of that. And if you work your stretching a little too aggressively, work mobility a little too aggressively, you might be sore the next day or even 2 days. And so if that's the case, you can always just back that off a little bit on the next mobility session. And keeping in mind that muscular strength happens very quickly in relation to connective tissue strength. So when you're stretching or working mobility, progress is gonna come a lot slower than progress is gonna come with addressing muscular strength. So those are the wrist mobility drills that I would do to help you with getting a better range of motion throughout the wrists, and that will translate into better handstands.